Hello, I'm Dr. Gary Huber. It is nice to meet you. Your employer, Messer Construction, has asked me to talk with you about an exciting program that we're bringing to Messer that's going to be very cool. Could actually change your life. I'm going to talk more about that program toward the latter half of this discussion that we're having. I want to bring up a topic called Metabolic Syndrome that for some people doesn't ring a bell, they don't know what it is, but as I get into it, you're going to recognize it, okay? So let's just jump right in. And where are we going? I'm going to talk about what metabolic syndrome is, what does it mean to you, and we're going to talk about your lifestyle. And this is just brass tacks, down to earth, how you live your life. You know, what you do on a daily basis, what decisions you make. From everything from the clothes you wear to the car you drive to the food that you eat to your sleep patterns are all based in your belief system. You become the story that you believe about yourself. What you think about, you bring about. So we're going to talk about a lot of the thought process that's gone into delivering you where you currently are. And what can we do to change that? So when I talk about metabolic syndrome, some people have heard of this, some not. Metabolic syndrome is essentially everything bad is going up. Your weight's going up, your cholesterol is going up, your blood pressure is going up, blood sugar is going up. And these aren't unrelated. These are all similar things. They're all inflammatory signals. If you do something to inflame your body with lifestyle or diet or lack of exercise or any number of things, we'll talk about those things. This is a natural occurrence. The body begins to store weight, blood pressure rises, sugars go up, weight goes up, blood pressure goes up. That's common. The problem is we're not really prepared to deal with that in traditional medicine. We don't have good answers for this. The cause of all these things coming up is inflammation. Inflammation is a broad term, but essentially anything that you do or put in or expose your body to that drives something called cytokines. You'll hear that word a lot. Cytokines are inflammatory chemicals your body makes. Let me give you an example. You get a throat infection. Your body automatically makes cytokines to inflame that area that brings in your immune system and kills the infection. Great, that's what we want. But when we do things, when we expose our body to things that are not normal and natural, excessive stress, lack of sleep, bad diet, then we stay in this chronic inflammatory state. And that's not healthy, and that's what leads to metabolic syndrome going up. So let's look at some of the things we might do that bring on the inflammation. All right, 70% of the U.S. is either obese or overweight. They estimate at this point a full 35% are fully obese, okay? And that's kind of scary. So the question is, are you in the awesome minority? You know, we hope you are. That's what we'd like to be. But unfortunately, the odds are against you that you're in that area. Let's go around this very quickly. But starchy carbs or veggies, which ones do you eat? Do you eat a lot of bread and potato and rice? Or do you eat a lot of vegetables? If you eat a lot of vegetables, you're more likely to be lean. Starchy carbs turn to sugar very quickly. And as soon as they turn to sugar, now we've got inflammation. Now we're trending toward that metabolic syndrome. Do you sleep less than 7 hours a night? Do you awaken multiple times through the night? This is a trigger for inflammation. Do you sweat or do you sit on the couch? By sweat, I mean do you exercise? Do you get up and really push your body? Not just at work, you know, not just things around, just yard work or things around the home or on your job, but do you go out and do actual exercise where you're getting your heart rate up and you're pushing heavy things. And for some people, you know, if you're in construction, you might be doing pretty hard stuff during the day that kind of borders on exercise. Are you stressed? Right? Nobody's stressed. No. Everybody's stressed. You know, I talk to 12-year-old kids and they're stressed about, you know, their classmates. Stress is something that in our culture is common and oftentimes overwhelming. Too many emails, too many texts, too long a to-do list, too much. When do you get to sit back and just be with your thoughts, relax, breathe, right? Oftentimes we're stressed, and that drives inflammation. Thyroid and hormones. These are things that we don't look at in traditional medicine. We don't typically measure hormones, and we do a very poor job in general of identifying people that have thyroid problems. Well, guess what? Both of these guys are the victim of stress. If your stress is high, it's going to lower your hormones and lower your thyroid function. And that's going to take away from the zest in your life, from feeling good, from having energy, from having good cognition, good brain activity. Poor gut health. Very, very common once again because we put things in our gut that are problematic. A lot of processed foods, a lot of sugar, not nearly enough fiber, not nearly enough vegetables, and we trend toward gut inflammation that drives brain inflammation and cardiovascular inflammation. And then lastly, do you eat organic or do you eat just regular stuff? And people say, well, organic's too expensive. It's really not, and we can look at that. But organic is devoid of the bad chemicals that, once again, cause inflammation in your body. So, if we're going to discuss, I'm going to tell you a little story, okay? So when I talk to people about this, sometimes the medical terms get a little complicated. So let's just simplify this into a basic story that I think everybody can relate to. Metabolic syndrome. This is the healthy highway, right? This is what your life looks like when you get regular exercise, refreshing sleep, you eat the right foods, you get lots of fiber in the diet, stress is very minimal. This is what life looks like. It's smooth, the skies are blue, your energy is awesome, your brain is fantastic, your sex drive is amazing, and just everything about your life is in flow. It feels good. But as we go down the healthy, let's say this is your life right now, even the healthiest of lives, well sometimes on that highway come onto a detour. Bad Habit Boulevard, right? What does that look like? We've all turned onto it before. This is what it looks like. So, we've got the fast food. Look at Grinder there. We got breakfast, lunch, and dinner right there at the Grinder. And I'm sure there's lots of organic vegetables there, right? No, probably not so much. Probably a lot of deep fried stuff, probably a lot of processed food, a lot of heavy sugar, heavy salt. And it's okay if we visit here once in a while. It's okay to have the occasional extravagance. That isn't the problem for most people. It's when we live in that environment. It's when we stay on Bad Habits Boulevard, right? And this guy represents that. He's got the chips going, he's got the TV going, he drinks soda, not water, doesn't have time for exercise, he's too tired to exercise, he's staying up late because I need me time, right? That's what I always hear, I need me time. So we stay up late and we engage in bad things, whether it's alcohol or salty chips, and we put these things in our body, and then we go to bed late, we don't get enough sleep. If I continue to do that on a regular basis, it's problematic. Look at this place. If this is your favorite restaurant, if this is your hangout, your joint, you're in trouble. Royal Jelly Donuts, we got hamburgers, we got fish and chips, we got donuts, we got everything. We got everything toxic you'd want to put in your body. And if you hang out at these kind of joints a lot, then bad things can happen, not just to you, but your family. You tend to congregate around people that do the kind of things you do, right? So your family starts to do the things that you do. Your kids are going to watch, and they're going to replicate what mom and dad do because they think you're awesome, right? They think everything you do is perfect. And so if you do these things, they're going to do those things. And it tends to affect family members and, yes, even pets, all right? If we stay in this environment too long, then what do we expect to happen to us in the future? We go off Bad Habits Boulevard and we take a hard right into inflammation drive. What that means is we repetitively have repeated these patterns. And what that's led us into is a state of chronic inflammatory change in our body. And I use this representation, okay? This is like a shopping mall, 9 different stores, and each of these stores represents a store on inflammation drive. If we live in this kind of environment day after day after day, these are the kind of stores that we're exposed to. And it typically starts up here with blood sugar changes. Our blood sugar tends to rise because if we're eating processed foods, they tend to have a lot of sugar in them, a lot of high fructose corn syrup. They tend to be pretty sugary. And as sugar goes up, our metabolism of sugar becomes worse and worse, and we trend toward diabetes, meaning we can't make enough insulin to keep our blood sugar under control. And if we do that, that's very inflammatory. Sugar in the bloodstream irritates the heck out of those blood vessels, right? So it's very inflammatory. And as we have that for a period of time, if our sugar starts to go up, sugar makes insulin go up, and you'll hear me tell this multiple times. So if you don't get it on the first pass, believe me, I'm going to say it again and again. As sugar goes up, it makes insulin go up. Insulin tries to take sugar out of the bloodstream and put it in the cells. But insulin tells your body a very important signal. Insulin says loud and clear, attention cells, attention, stop all fat burning at this time. And your body stops burning fat for the next 5 to 6 hours, right? So then what do? Our cholesterol starts going up. Our pants start getting bigger. Our triglycerides rise. And then our doctor says, well Betty, your cholesterol is a little high. I think we need to put you on some medication. So diabetes often leads to high cholesterol. Cholesterol is not high because you ate eggs. That's not the case. Multiple studies show We're omnivores. We're meant to eat eggs. We're meant to eat beef. We're meant to eat chicken. Our bodies can metabolize and process that. We make cholesterol. Your liver makes 1,000 milligrams of cholesterol every day. You're making cholesterol because it turns cholesterol into hormones. It turns cholesterol into cell memories. Cholesterol is valuable. It is not the cause of heart attacks. So there's a lot of myth, right? Most people, when the cholesterol is high, it's because they're eating too much sugar and their blood sugar is trending up. And they haven't been diagnosed with diabetes, but the blood sugar is trending up and causing inflammation. And now it irritates cholesterol and it begins to create plaque. But it's not just because you ate eggs. That's not it. Now we're starting to gain weight, right? Our sugars are up, insulin's up, we don't burn fat, we get bigger. And as we get bigger, our blood pressure tends to rise. Once again, we're back to metabolic syndrome. Everything's going up because one domino hits the next, hits the next, hits the next. And we start going down this path. It's predictable. It's very predictable what's going to happen. Blood pressure goes up because sugar makes the wall of the vessel kind of stiff. And if it can't expand, then pressure goes up higher. Sleep apnea. Yep, we start getting bigger. We gain weight. We have our airway in our throat gets smaller and smaller, and we have edema or swelling. Now our tongue falls back into that airway, and we start snoring, and snoring is a sign of sleep apnea, or it can be. If we don't sleep at night, think about that. At nighttime, when you're asleep, your body should be mellow and repairing itself. It's the quietest time of day for your brain, unless you can't breathe. If you can't get oxygen and your oxygen's dipping lower and lower because of airway obstruction from your tongue and snoring, your brain goes from the most calming time of day to the most aggravated, excited, scared physiology, right? And so your nervous system jumping up is going to raise your heart rate and your blood pressure. And again, we just see all this stuff collecting together and going downhill. We become fatigued because we're not sleeping very well. Our joints start to hurt, not just because we're carrying 20 or 40 or 50 extra pounds, but because, again, all this inflammation irritates the lining of the joints. The joints are just, they're pissed. They're inflamed, all right? And when we start to reverse that inflammation, the joints, they ease up. It isn't just weight. It's the chemistry behind that weight. It's the inflammation that's driving it. Now we've gone from being just overweight to being obese, and all that leads the way to Alzheimer's. That's right. Alzheimer's is just inflammation of the brain. So the inflammation starts in our blood vessels, then it settles in our heart, and it affects the vasculature, and then it affects the neurons, the nerves, and our brain becomes at risk for Alzheimer's. Horrible way to go, right? Dead end street. Not somewhere you want to visit. Looking at that whole scenario slightly, just a different visual picture, if we're on Bad Habits Boulevard and we take a right on Inflammation Drive, we're living our life with chronic inflammation. We have weight gain, hypertension, cholesterol, diabetes, right? The big four, metabolic syndrome. It only ends one way, in this dead end street. It ends with a heart attack, a stroke, Alzheimer, or cancer. So if you get metabolic syndrome and you're having these things, this is where you end up. Not pretty, not fun. And people say, yeah, well, you know, whatever, my whole family is overweight and that's just how I am. No, I reject that entirely. You are the way you are because of the habits you selected. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you how you can easily rewire your brain, retrain your brain, change your belief system so that you can change your weight and your blood pressure and your sugar. You don't have to end up here. You don't. Because when we go down this pathway, that last 20 years of your life is miserable. I see people in their late 50s and they're already miserable. Their joints hurt, they don't sleep at night, they have no energy. They're not going to die for another 20 years, but they're going to be miserable in the process. You don't have to. You should be vibrant. You should be alive. You should be active. You should feel good. You should have good mood. You should have good sex drive. You should have low blood sugar. You should just enjoy your life, and you can. We're gonna get to how. So let's dispel some of the myths, right? Well, metabolic syndrome, it's not about your genetics. It's not because your dad had hypertension. It's not, and I can prove that. Genetics plays a very small part. You have 25,000 genes, but only a small percentage of them are active at any one time. And whether a gene is turned on or turned off is dependent upon epigenetic factors. Epigenetic means your lifestyle. What you do to those genes. Are you turning on certain genes or turning off certain genes? Studies have shown, for example, if my vitamin D is really low, vitamin D is key for my immune system response. An immune system response is really important in cancer. and that if I keep my vitamin D level at a healthy range, 50 to 60, I actually turn off certain cancer genes. If it's low, I turn on cancer genes. Studies on latitude. If you live down in the tropics or in Florida where it's sunny all the time, you get much sun in Ohio, not so much. If you get a lot of sun, sun touches your skin, you make vitamin D. And so there's not as much multiple sclerosis in the lower latitudes. As you go up the United States toward Canada and toward the North Pole, for every latitude jump, there's an increase in multiple sclerosis and an increase in autoimmune disease because you don't have as much vitamin D. So a lot of this goes into, are we turning our genes off and on? And so genetics is secondary to your lifestyle. How you sleep, what you eat, the things that you do. How do you manage your stress? How much stress do you have? And your stress, and I'm going to say this, and you're going to shake your head and say, no, Dr. Huber, you're full of hooey. But your stress, you get to decide how much stress you have. Oh, you don't understand, my kids and my job and my spouse and my this. You get to decide how you look, recognize, and handle stress. All right? I see people all the time. Small things happen in their life, and they act like it's Mount Vesuvius erupting, right? And they elevate how significant that is in their life. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying that's the way that they've trained themselves to respond. Maybe you're like that. Maybe you've trained yourself to have this enormous reaction to little changes in your life. They seem monumental. We're going to explore why that is the way it is. For a lot of folks, and you probably recognize this, if you have a horrible night's sleep and you don't get much sleep, are you happy and joyous the next day? Are you a little grumpy? Do little things look like mountains when you haven't had sleep? Probably the latter, right? Little things really get under your skin. Now multiply that by 365 days a year. I didn't get the right foods. My brain doesn't have the right chemistry. I didn't get enough sleep. I didn't get exercise. Now suddenly little things become big. My stress is high, and stress affects everything, right? So there are ways to change your stress response. So genetics, no, your genes do not determine who you are. What you do to your genes, how you treat your genes, is more important than the genes that you have. Your whole family could have type 2 diabetes. You don't have to. If you don't eat and do the things that they did that gave them diabetes, you don't have to have diabetes. And you can reverse type 2 diabetes. Yes, I'll say that again. You can reverse type 2 diabetes. All right? We do that all the time. So, I show you this picture because it's one of my favorite works of art. Michelangelo's David. Okay? Beautiful. I love it for a couple of reasons. First of all, how he saw this figure in a slab of granite, I have no idea. How an artist can see that and pull that out of that granite, to me, is just amazing. And secondly, this is part of why I went into medicine. The mystery and the beauty of the human body, what it's able to do and how it can adapt and adjust. It's just amazing. All the hundreds of thousands of chemical reactions going on. And this beautiful representation of the human body. So it's always been one of my favorites. Interestingly, this work of art was on loan from the Italian government in the United States many years ago, and it circled the country, going to major metropolitan areas and being displayed. And it was a wonderful gift that we had to view this in person. And a little problem emerged, though. There was an international incident of sorts, because David was in the United States for about 6 months on this tour of the States. And when we went to send David back to Italy, he had enjoyed the American lifestyle. Okay? So David took on our belief system. This has been shown in actual studies. People from other cultures that come to the United States, within a year of being here, they've adopted our disease rates and our obesity rates because they've adopted our lifestyle. And our lifestyle is up here. Your lifestyle is what you think and what you believe and what you replicate on a daily basis. All right? So let's not become David. Talk a little bit about health, and then about our medical system, and then we're going to get into some of the things we can do. When we look at our medical system, it's okay if you have trauma, if you have an emergency, if you need surgery. Oh man, best medical care in the world, right? Amazing, awesome. But when it comes to preventative medicine, when it comes to health, we don't do so good. These are the leading causes of death in the United States. Heart disease, number one. Do you know back in the 1920s there were hardly any heart attacks at all? That all changed over time. It changed as our foods became more and more processed. But it's the number one killer. Cancer, number two. Stroke, number three. All right, those are bad things. You know what number four is? The fourth leading cause of death in the United States of America is drug therapy. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, 130,000 deaths per year from the negative side of drug therapy. Now don't get me wrong, when drugs are needed, they're amazing tools. They're powerful. They can be awesome. But we hand them out like jelly beans. We only represent 5% of the world population in the United States. We're 5% of the world. Yet we consume 50% of all the drugs made globally. That's astronomically lopsided. And if drugs made us healthy, we should be the healthiest people in the world, right? But we're not. Why are we so sick? When we look around the world, around the globe, these are all the different countries that, when you rank from 1 to 10, longevity. In what countries do people live the longest? That's a good sign of health, right? We're horrible. We rank down at 29th and 33rd in the world. We're not even close to the top 10. And yet every continent, whether you look in South America or Europe or Asia, everybody else has somebody in that list. But the United States ranks very poorly, right? And it speaks to our lifestyle. So we have awesome emergency medical care, but when it comes to what do we do about health, we do a very poor job in general. So where's the problem? Well, I don't want you to take this as I'm bashing healthcare, because I think we do have some amazing pieces to our healthcare. Where we as a group kind of lose our way is when we actually try to get people healthy. We are never taught. American medical schools do not have any classwork on health. This is true. When I went to med school, there was diseases of the heart, disease of the brain, disease of the kidney, and all the different drugs and surgeries to treat those diseases. But there wasn't a single class on how to make somebody healthy. How do you make somebody healthy? We're not taught that. We're not taught anything about food. We're taught very little about sleep. We're not taught about exercise. We're not taught how to reverse disease. We're not taught how to reverse hypertension or reverse diabetes. We're only taught how to manage the symptoms. And this is a quote. I was having a discussion with a colleague here in town some years ago about reversing type 2 diabetes. He was getting very frustrated because he realized we didn't really have the tools to reverse diabetes in traditional medicine. He said, I'm not here to cure anything. My goal is to manage the disease manage the symptoms of disease using drugs and surgery. Not very Marcus Welby-esque. If you remember who Marcus Welby is, that means you're old like me, but it was an old TV show. Anyway, so traditional medicine looks at disease like this. Okay, disease is huge, and all we're going to do is try to manage the symptoms. If I give you lisinopril for your hypertension, have I cured your hypertension? No. I've made the numbers look better on the chart, but I haven't done anything to address why your high blood pressure is there. I haven't done anything to reverse it. I've just tried to control the symptoms. Maybe I've slowed down the progression, but I haven't changed the course of the disease. The same is true for diabetes or high cholesterol or any of the other things we take drugs for. About the only time a drug cures a disease is when we give an antibiotic to treat an infection, right? You have strep throat. Here's your penicillin. You all better? There you go. I cured your disease. But most drugs don't cure a disease. They just manage symptoms. What if we took on disease with this kind of a mindset? What if we went after it looking at chronic stress and doing something to modulate that? We don't do any of that in medicine. You can't just give somebody Valium and say you've managed their stress. You've not. What about toxins? Do we talk about heavy metals, mercury and lead, or plastics and phthalates and BPA and pesticides and herbicides and the hundreds of things that we breathe and eat that make us toxic and inflamed? We don't do that in medicine. What about hormonal balance? Again, no discussion in med school, no therapy of that when you go to your doctor. Your doctor's never looked at you and said, hey, do you think your testosterone's normal? We don't even know what that, we're not proficient in that in traditional medicine. Gut imbalances. When I mean gut, I mean everything from mouth all the way to the exit, everything in between. How you digest, can you extract the food? Do you have gas and bloating and heartburn and these types of things? Putting somebody on acid blocker doesn't treat that. Okay? So if the gut's not working well, there are things you can do to make the gut work better. And that's key because 70% of your immune system is housed in the intestines, in your gut. And if that immune system or if that gut is irritated, then you're going to have immune issues. You're at risk for autoimmune disease and asthma and all kinds of bad things, right? And if tell me if this applies to you. If you can tell me, well, you know, I've had a long history of gas and bloating, indigestion, heartburn, constipation, diarrhea. If you've had a couple of those things for many years, I'll fill in the rest of the story for you. You also have struggled with mood disorder, anxiety, depression, headaches, sleep problems, okay? Because that's your brain. The gut and the brain are married. They're absolutely tied together. You can't have bad gut physiology and have your brain be sparkling wonderful, all right? It just doesn't work that way. But oftentimes you go to your doctor and you say, I have a low mood or I'm anxious, and you get put on a drug. That doesn't affect why you have that. It's not going to reverse that gut issue. Sleep and exercise, we don't talk about that in medicine. It's not our job. And then nutrient deficiencies. Many of the drugs you take, at least half of all the drugs prescribed, will cause a nutrient deficiency. If I put you on a statin like Lipitor or something to control cholesterol, it depletes CoQ10, vitamin A and K, many of the B vitamins, and a host of other nutrients. It depletes those. So then what do you feel like after you've been on that drug for 3, 4, 5 years? Not so good, right? Especially if the diet's not ideal. So what if we treated with disease with all these different other armaments? We would do much better. You would feel better. We'd actually reverse the cause of the disease, and you would actually enjoy, your general sense of well-being would improve, okay? So, yes, it's inflammation. So what can we do about it? What can we do about all this inflammation? I don't want you to look at this side, okay? Let's look at the left side over here first. If this is your life, right, I like to go get a little exercise, I drink clean water, oh, I sleep wonderfully. I eat lots of good vegetables, and I meditate, I quiet my brain down. Doesn't that just feel good, right? Even if you don't do all those, doesn't that just feel good? Now, let's live here, right? I get up, I'm in a rush, I don't have time for a good breakfast, so I just grab something at Panera, typically some kind of sandwich or bread, and I'm worried about my job, and I'm worried about my family and all these things. I'm just stressed, my to-do list. I drink Coke all day because I just need the caffeine to keep me awake and keep me going. I took the kids to soccer and we didn't have time for dinner, so we just stopped by McDonald's and grabbed something quick, and I don't sleep very well at night. Does that look like your life? Are parts of that in your life? And how do you feel? Yeah, that's how you feel. Typically, I see a lot of folks that are living this kind of life, right? Let's see if we can't unravel that a bit and put some different definitions there. Because this kind of person often says, I'm moody, I'm irritable, I don't feel like me, my brain is foggy, I can't think, I can't concentrate, I have a drop in energy at 2 in the afternoon, I don't sleep very well at night, I awaken 2 or 3 times, sometimes I have a hard time falling back to sleep, I don't feel like exercising because I'm really fatigued, my gut is bloated, I don't want to have sex, I just want a nap and a sandwich, right? That's often how they feel. So, this is a quote from my dietitian, one of my favorites. You are what you eat. So don't be fast, easy, and cheap. We'll talk about food a little bit. The Department of Agriculture tells us that the most consumed vegetables in the American diet are comprised of number 1, ketchup, number 2, French fries, number 3, onion rings. Do those sound like really healthy, good vegetables? We're not real good vegetable eaters. And yet if you go back, if you take your caveman great-great-great-grandparents, and you came out of that cave, what was there to eat? Well, plants and animals. I could eat meat or I could eat vegetables and berries and roots, right? That's all there was. There was no grain. There was no wheat. There weren't a lot of things. There was occasional, you could find some berries, a little bit of fruit. Very different than what we eat today. And when we simplify our lives and go back to a more Paleolithic diet, a caveman diet, then we tend to be healthier on all fronts. A Paleolithic approach to eating real foods, whole foods. If your food is in a box, a bag, a can, or a wrapper, it's not real food. It's processed. The bread that comes in that plastic bag is not real food. The grain itself has been horribly modified over time. Now it's milled, and then it's made in a factory and put in a plastic bag. That's not real food. I know we're taught that it is. I know we grow up eating it our whole lives. I know that. I live in this country. I grew up in this country. I get it. But we're gonna begin to show you that it may not. If you're happy with where you are, great. But it's probably one of the bigger things that's causing some demise. So, inflammatory foods. What are inflammatory foods? Any food that drives sugar up is an inflammatory food, and that drives insulin up. Okay, I told you I was going to tell you this multiple times. And insulin tells your body, don't burn fat. That is the message of insulin. So if I eat any food that's inflammatory, anything that raises sugar, it's going to cause that reaction. I don't want that. Well, what kind of food am I talking about? There it is. All right. Wheat, crackers, bread, pasta, muffin, rolls, bagels. The list goes on and on and on. Tell me this, would you eat a pork chop 3 times a day? Probably not. Would you eat a banana 3 times a day? Probably not. Would you eat wheat 4 or 5 times a day? Easily. I get up in the morning and I have my toast for breakfast, or my bagel, or my waffle, or my cereal, and then for lunch I have a sandwich with 2 pieces of bread, and then for dinner I had pasta, and then late at night I had some snacks that had wheat in them. Oh, and my ice cream has wheat in it as a thickening agent. My salad dressing has wheat in it as a thickening agent. And if I start looking at all the labels in my pantry, there's wheat in a lot of this stuff. Why? Because we're the biggest grain producer on the planet. You know, it's good for our economy. Our government tells us to eat that stuff. If you go look at the science, the scientific literature says don't eat wheat. It's not healthy for us, okay? But everything you're looking at is coming either from the government or from marketing or from Eggos and Wheaties and all these companies that want you to eat their product. But it's really not healthy for you. And that's a big ask. When I look at somebody in the eyes and I say, I don't want you to eat any more wheat, the look of horror, and then how can I feed myself? I get it. I get that comes as a club to the forehead, you know, bong. It's going to be okay. If you choose to go down this path, we're going to help you. We're going to show you how it can be done easily and simply with wonderful results, okay? So I don't want to get diverted too much. But remember, wheat turns to sugar, which raises insulin, which says no fat burning, okay? Other things about wheat. First of all, it's been so genetically modified over the years that Grog and his caveman friends, as they came out of their cave, they didn't have access to it. It wasn't even there. It's only been on the planet about 10,000 years. Man has been on the planet, we estimate, more than 200,000 years. So wheat hasn't always been around. It turns into sugar in seconds. In fact, if I gave you a piece of whole wheat bread or 5 sugar cubes to eat, guess which one of those will raise your blood sugar the fastest and the highest? The bread. I know, it's surprising. Americans get 20% of their calories from wheat. That's amazing. That's staggering. It's back to that 2 or 3 times a day I have it. And then gluten, you know, people come to me and they say, well, wheat's in the Bible and it's part of our heritage and culture. Yeah, I know it's in the Bible, but the wheat you and I are eating is not the same wheat that was in the Bible, okay? And here's an interesting factoid. Gluten is the protein in wheat. Gluten is the only protein on the planet that your body can't digest. Your gut has no ability to digest gluten, and there are fractions of that gluten protein that are very irritating to the gut lining. If you have heartburn, I'll make this challenge to you right now. If you have heartburn on a regular basis, give up all wheat products for 2 weeks. I'll bet you there is more than a 60 to 70% chance that your reflux goes away completely. Okay? And you don't have to take that acid blocking medicine. There's ways to reverse that. Anyway, I digress. So, a lot of myths out there. We think cholesterol is the cause of heart attacks. It's not. We've known since 1995 that cholesterol is not the cause of heart attacks, right? That's more than 20 years ago. And yet most people still subscribe to that belief. It's a myth. Most people, the majority of people that have a heart attack have a normal lipid panel. Okay? If you think cholesterol causes heart attacks, then you must believe that firemen cause house fires. Because every time I see a house fire, there's a nice policeman standing or a nice fireman standing right next to it, right? It's that kind of thinking. Cholesterol is not the cause. Cholesterol gets swept up in the mechanism and in the process, but it is not the cause. We have to get away from that thinking. We have to get away from thinking that grains are great and meat is bad. It's not the case at all. It's a lot of myth, okay? So, a little dynamic, a little physiology, but that belly is not just sitting there doing nothing. When you have belly fat, it's a factory. Belly fat is a factory that manufactures these inflammatory cytokines, interleukin-1, interleukin-6, TNF-alpha, and these inflammatory cytokines spin off and cause inflammation, there's that word again, inflammation, in the blood vessels and in the heart and in the brain that lead to high blood pressure, heart attacks, and stroke. These inflammatory cytokines also interfere with the functioning of the insulin receptor. The insulin receptor can't function as well, so then you have to make more insulin. We know what more insulin does, right? More insulin does what? Stop burning fat. And so no fat burn, more fat storage, and the cycle just continues to go on and on and on. I like to look at this beautiful Ferrari. I'll never have one, but I like to look at it because it reminds me of what I want my blood vessels to look like. Slick, right? No friction, just smooth. I want my blood vessels to be that way. How badly does that picture make you cringe? Can you imagine taking that steel wool and going up to that car and just raking it across the finish? What would it do to that finish? It'd make it all rough and scratch it up. That's what sugar does to the lining of your blood vessels. Sugar is like steel wool. Sugar and insulin is like steel wool to the lining of your blood vessel, irritating it, scratching it up, creating inflammation. And that's what drives plaque, not cholesterol. It's that inflammation, okay? So, are you ready for change? I hope so. Not everybody's ready. And there'll be people right now that look at me going, I'm not on board with all of this right now. That's okay. Take your time. Digest. Think it over. Roll it through. But there are a lot of people right now that are going, yeah, that sounds like me, and I'm tired of it. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I want change. All right, let's go. What can we do about it? We can change your lifestyle, or we can use drug therapy. Well, you know what? What we have found in studies is that lifestyle changes are 3 times more effective than drug therapy. I can put you on a statin drug, I can put you on blood pressure medicine, I can put you on diabetic medication, I can put you on all kinds of drugs. And it may control some of the symptoms, but it doesn't slow down the disease, and it doesn't slow down the conversion in the metabolic syndrome, and it doesn't stop heart attacks. It may slow it down, doesn't stop them. Lifestyle factors are at least 3 times more effective at doing that. So, is this you? Are you ready? You ready to make some change? Great, let's go to the gym and just work out until we drop 50 pounds. Here's the problem. There's so much misinformation out there. I've already exposed a half a dozen different myths just in this time we've had together. There's so many myths out there. What do you do if you're this guy? You go to the gym and just get on a bike and start pedaling until you feel better? That might help. It's a start. But what about diet? Should I eat a high-fat diet, a low-fat diet, carbs good or bad, grains good or bad? There's so much information. How do you know? What about hydration? How much water should I drink? Do I need to drink other things? Is green tea good? Is kefir good? Is endless list. Is milk good for me? How about exercise? What kind of exercise? High intensity, low intensity? Should I exercise short period of time, long period of time? Should I do resistance training? A lot of questions there. How about your sleep? My sleep's not good. How do I fix it? If your sleep is not ideal, if you're sleeping 5 hours a night, you're never going to lose significant amounts of weight and keep it off. And we'll help you understand why, and we'll resolve that problem. Sleep is critical to your body's repair cycle. And if we don't respect the sleep, you can get on that stationary bike and pedal from here to forever. You're not going to get the results you want if you don't get proper sleep. What about stress? How do I manage my stress? What about toxins? Where are they and how do I avoid them? And how do I get the ones that are in me out of me? What about my hormones? Are they normal? Have they ever been checked? What about thyroid? Has my doctor ever done a full thyroid panel? Not just that TSH-T4 stuff. Have they ever truly looked at all of your thyroid parameters and identified if you have a low thyroid condition? Low thyroid affects every cell in your body. Cognition, whether you're cold, whether you can lose weight, your nails, your hair, swelling in your feet, it affects everything and often is overlooked. Insulin, you ever had it measured? Do you know if it's high or low? Do you know if your foods are driving it? What about mindset? Are you thinking the right things to get to where you want to be? Or are you getting in your own way? Have you put hurdles in your thinking that'll never allow you to get where you want? If you've ever said this type of thing, well, I know exercise worked for her and she lost her weight, but it never works for me, and everybody in my family's heavy, and I'm always going to be heavy. If that's what you believe, you're right. Change your belief, and you'll change your outcome. Support. Do you have the right support? Do you have consistency? Do you have somebody helping you stay on track and get the results you want? All right? And why did we create that list? Because that's where people struggle. And that's where we've come up with solutions. So our solution is our Virtuoso program. It's an educational curriculum. It's a 6-month program. And it's not hard. And nobody's going to go hungry. And there's going to be plenty of food to eat. But we're going to work on changing the way you think about everything in your life. From your sleep to your stress to your exercise to your eating habits. There's lots of materials. There's lots of hand-holding. There's lots of contact points. There's lots of support that go with this. So there's simple, small steps. I get it. I've been doing this for more than a decade. I get that it can be a challenge. I refuse to say that it's hard, okay? It's only hard if you say that it's hard. Don't say it's hard and it won't be hard. I've walked too many people down this path. It's simple. It's easy. It's one small step at a time. One small step. Drink more water today. Can you do that? Can you drink more water today? There, that was easy. Now let's go on to the next step, okay? little tiny steps. And again, we're going to change the way you think. We're going to get between your ears, we're going to get into your brain, and we're going to purge out negative thoughts that are holding you back and install happy, fun, joyous thoughts that are going to help drive you forward. I promise, it's actually fun. Okay, there's laughter involved and everything, I swear. So let me just show you a couple of patients. Bill came to me, he was 58. Bill was a fireman, still is, and he said, 58, he goes, I don't think I'm going to be alive when I'm 60. I said, Bill, it's only 2 years from now. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be alive. I feel that bad. I have no energy, I have no stamina, I can barely do my job. And here was Bill, 224 pounds, no exercise, blood pressure. That's a high blood pressure, 160 over 110. That was on medication, and his pressure was that high. He was on a statin medication, and his cholesterol was still high. His blood sugar was 106. He's borderline diabetic. Of course, his doctor hasn't done anything to correct that because, according to the traditional treatment in medicine, you're not diabetic until it crosses 126. Well, you're not over 126 yet, so you're not diabetic, so we're not going to do anything. Well, that's a bad answer. So we put him in our Virtuoso program. Bill had these results by, I'm pretty certain, week 11 or 12, okay? So within 12 weeks, I know it was less than 12 weeks, he lost 49 pounds. He didn't go hungry. He had plenty to eat. He started to exercise a small amount. You know what he did? He walked. He lost 49 pounds doing nothing but walking. He didn't join a gym. He didn't do anything outlandish. His blood pressure came down to 110 over 70, and that's off medication. His blood pressure was 100% better off the medication after he lost the weight. What did he do? He dropped the inflammation. He threw the inflammation out the window. We changed the way his body was processing. He came off his cholesterol medication, and the cholesterol dropped more than 100 points off medication. And his fasting blood sugar dropped down to 80, into a normal range, into a very healthy range, in fact. All right? This is Bill after just 12 weeks. Look at the difference, right? He's a happy guy. He's lost more weight since then, and he's been doing more things. He's more active. And Bill knows I do a bit of speaking around the country, and he said, look, Doc, I brought you a slide. He goes, I want you to share this with people. I want them to know what happened to me inside of the first year of doing this program. Number one, I came off all my drugs. That's $60 a month. I'm saving $720 a year. Number two, I got a kickback from my insurance because now I met their healthy parameters. I got $500 off my premium, so I'm saving that. I was spending roughly $1,000 a year at the chiropractor for my back pain. Now, I didn't treat his back pain. I treated his inflammation, and his back pain went away. So the back pain is much better. He doesn't go to the chiropractor. I had to call his chiropractor and apologize. But he's saving that money. Life insurance premiums should go down. He's going to renew them. He had spent, to this point, $10,000, he estimates, on kidney stones. He was having about a kidney stone a year and going into the ER and having problems, having to get kidney stones resolved, right? He hasn't had any more kidney stones. He's not likely to have kidney stones. So he anticipates he's going to save a lot of money there. We don't even know how much. Should be fewer illnesses. He'll save money. And this is my favorite. He was spending upwards of $2.50 to $3 a day on Coca-Cola. He doesn't do that anymore. That's saving him $912 a year. So his grand total, $3,132 a year saved, plus the things that we don't know how much he's going to save on, like kidney stones, plus quality of life is tremendously better, right? So is this worth it? Heck yes, it's worth it to you and everybody around you. This is Lori. Lori lost 42 pounds in 6 months. She continued to lose weight even after this picture. And if you see her today, you would look at that second picture and say, wow, she was really big then. She's continued to lose weight. She's kept the weight off. Now, how is she keeping the weight off? What is the magic there? Do you think maybe she's thinking different and her actions are the result of different thinking? Yeah, maybe. What about heart rates? If your heart rate is high, your risk for heart attack goes up. If your heart rate's greater than 75 sitting in a chair, you're 300% more likely to have a sudden MI. For every 5-beat increase in your heart rate, you double your risk of a heart attack. Look at the group on the far right. That's where the average heart rate was in one of the corporate health groups that we worked with. It was 83. And after 6 months, when we rechecked it, it was down to a 65. That was the drop in heart rate. How much drop in myocardial risk or heart attack risk is that? A bunch, more than 60%. This is another patient of ours. July, August, September, October, 4 months. Look at him melt that belly away. You know what that belly represents, right? Inflammation, cytokines, insulin disruption. So, Do you think his energy got better? Heck yeah. Think he could do his job better? Heck yeah. Do you think he felt better? Yeah. He could even clip his own toenails now, which he couldn't do before. We track cognition. Your ability to focus, have energy, and make decisions always goes up in patients that go through our program. That always improves. Your on-the-job function enhances. This is a patient of ours that was a type 2 diabetic when he came into the program, and within 4 short weeks, he came off of his insulin and went on to come off of other drugs as well. He was spending almost $1,000, well, maybe restate that. We saved him almost $1,000 a month on drug therapy. Look at the cost. Anything in yellow are things we were able to discontinue. He came off Lantus, that's $559. He came off Invokana, that's $280. So how many of you are on medications that are costing an arm and a leg? Wouldn't you rather put that money in your pocket? Because somebody's paying for that. You say, well, you know, my insurance pays for it. Somebody's paying for that, and if it's your insurance, then it's your employer. And they're not real happy about paying for that either. So somebody's going to benefit. There's Paul. Paul lost some weight. He wasn't all that heavy to begin with, but he came off his insulin within 4 weeks. Amazing change. And of course, quality of life went up dramatically. Another patient, and I just show you these because you need to see how significant these patients, look at this Proair. She was doing that once a day. Now she's only doing it once a week. She came off Xanax, came off a lot of different medications, saving herself and her company a lot of money. These are just some comments we've gotten from our patients. What about general fatigue and sleep? I'll just read this to you. I used to be tired around 2 or 3 in the afternoon and then reach for a carb to wake me up and give me energy. I am no longer tired at 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and snacks now consist of fruit and nuts. A few months ago, I was only sleeping around 5 hours a night. Now I'm sleeping around 6 to 7 hours nightly. Huge difference. All right? Arthritis and mood. So this person, their doctor was going to go do testing to see if they had rheumatoid arthritis because their hands were so swollen and so painful. They went through the program and the joint inflammation nearly abated. A little bit of pain, but 10 times better than what it was before. Also, she reported feeling very depressed, feeling miserable, and the depression lifted. Her mood got much better. Why? Because her gut got much better. Gut and brain go together. I used to sleep sitting straight up in a chair because of the acid reflux. And now, just after a week in the program, I can lay down and sleep like a normal person. Headaches. For years I had headaches. Went to doctor after doctor, constantly given new medications to try. After being in the program for 3 months, I've had only 1 headache. Dramatic change. These are not unusual. We get these kind of stories all the time. Asthma clears up. All kinds of other changes. So, let me ask you this. Are you ready? Are you ready to commit? Are you ready to enjoy your life? Are you ready to make change? Are you ready to change the story you believe about yourself? Are you ready to redefine yourself? Are you ready to really take life to its fullest and feel good and make those around you feel good? You get to color your life. You get to decide what color crayons. And if you're choosing blacks and grays, then it's just a choice. You can paint with pinks and blues and yellows, and your life can change. So, what you get, the result that you're looking at right now in your health, is just a result of past choices. We can help you make better choices. And with that change, you can see a tremendous difference in who you are. So, final thoughts. Number 1, absolutely you can do this. Anybody can do this if you simply choose to. All you need is a willingness, a strong desire to not continue on the same path. That's all this is. It's a different path, a better path. So anybody can do this. There are people that make plans, and there are people that make excuses. Choose. Which one of those people do you want to be? Do you want to make plans? If you're willing to actually write down, this is what I am going to do, and we help you with that, then you will get that. You will accomplish that. You will get what you think about. You will get what you focus on. And if you focus on negativity, and you focus on I can't, or it won't work, or excuses, that's what you'll get. You'll get excuses. If you're ready for change and you're committed to it, we're going to make it a fun and joyous journey. I promise you that. This is not expensive. Getting sick is what is expensive. And yes, it's quite simple. Anyone can do this. So, again, I'm Dr. Gary Huber. I really look forward to working with you. I think it's going to be fun. All right? If you're interested, if this sounds like something you want to engage in, we have a questionnaire. Fill it out. At the top of that questionnaire, write this down. On a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you to engage in a program that could change your life forever. If you put down a 10, you're telling me, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll walk on glass. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. You just tell me what to do and I will follow it through, and I will believe in the program and I will learn the program and I will succeed. Okay? If you're committed, that's what a 10 is. Hey, maybe you're not certain. Maybe you think you want change, but maybe life's too stressful right now. Maybe you don't feel like I'm ready to commit 100%. That's okay. Just honestly tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you in that process? Maybe you're thinking it sounds like a good idea, but you're only a 6 because right now there's just so many other things going on, you don't feel like you can commit. Or maybe you're a 1 or a 2. You're like, dude, this is who I am. I like who I am. I'm happy where I am. I may not be real healthy. I may be on some meds, but I'm not ready for change. I'm just not there. That's okay. We're still going to be there for you. We're still going to help with education. We're still going to provide opportunities because we know that things change. And down the road, you might be ready. So, if you're ready to change, let me know. We want to be there and we want to take you down that path. All right? Thank you for listening, and I look forward to meeting you. Take care.